Thank you so much for coming and joining us today. I'm super excited. So let me ask you this, okay? So the keto diet is all the rage, right? But did you know that it can actually harm your hormones? Well, and especially women that are over 40 are even more at risk. And so I am super excited to bring you Dr. Anna Cabeca. She is a triple board certified Emory University trained OBGYN. She is a colleague and a dear friend of mine. I just love this woman. She is the girlfriend go-to doctor, and she really has devoted her life and is passionate about helping women as they age to have just, more of an active, actual, great intimacy with their partners, to help them with their health overall, with their hormones, with menopause, with everything that happens to us, right? As we start to get into menopause, the waking, the bloat, the brain fog, all those crazy symptoms. And she is going to help us and tell us how you can take a comprehensive approach to hormones and menopause the keto green way. So Dr. Anna, I'm so happy to have you with us.
Great to be here with you, Sherry, as always. Lovely to be here.
So I would love to get started by having you actually share with us, what are hormones, what do they do, and how do they change as we age?
Yeah, well, definitely hormones are chemical messengers in our body. They communicate from one area to another. They drive our moods, our emotions, our metabolism, and are integral to how we feel and perceive the world as well. So we know that as we enter puberty, and this is I just saw this funny skit, Sherry. I'm going to diverse a second. It is this funny skit the other day about a comedian, and she said, in puberty, they say, oh, well, you're becoming a woman. And then what happens in menopause? What are you becoming? The Japanese are like, well, in Japan, after menopause is called the second spring. And so I'm like holding on to that second spring, revered wisdom, those with revered wisdom. And I think that's just a really beautiful concept. So as our hormones change as we get older, definitely in the perimenopause, like mid-30s, we have decline of DHEA, which is one of our stress adrenal hormones produced by our adrenal gland, which is our fight and flight responding gland.
Okay.
And progesterone, which is our mother hormone. Progesterone, progestation, like a pro-life hormone, it's a hormone of pregnancy. So progesterone has receptors all over our body, our uterus, in our brain. Progesterone is necessary for good, clear thought, thinking, and memory. And it's in our fascia as well as estrogen receptors. So as we get older, when we're experiencing that achiness, that can be from hormonal insufficiency as well. So we want to look at this. Progesterone steeply declines in our mid-30s. And what happens also, we get a decline in estrogen and testosterone. So all those symptoms you mentioned can often be experienced during this transition.
Yeah, I personally noticed the brain fog quite, it's crazy. But one of the reasons why I went on the keto diet, I actually started it, Dr. Anna, last fall. My brother told me about it, and I started reading a book on it. And the thing that I really loved about it was it talked about the brain health and how it, really allowed you to have more clarity of thought. And I have, my mother had dementia, not really full on Alzheimer's, and then her sister as well. And so I've always wanted to find ways to continue really great brain health. And I have noticed since being on the keto that my thoughts are a lot more clear and there's less brain fog with it. But you talk about, that it can be harmful, this keto diet for the hormones for women over 40, and that there's a way though that we can really embrace this keto way of eating and actually make it fit with modifications. Can you share a little bit about that? Because I know also you just wrote a book, right? You have this brand new book, the Keto Green 16. Is that?
Yes, I do. Keto Green 16. It's being published by Valentine Penguin Random House. I'm excited to that it is releasing May 5th, but available for pre-order now with great book bonuses. So, but I'll share with you, stepping back on the memory issue, the clarity. I mean, that's where I stumbled across, where I really integrated it, and why I up-leveled keto, the Keto Green Way, is because, there's a couple things. The first thing to know is that as we get older, we have natural hormone decline that affects our brain function as well as our fuel source. So the brain uses glucose for fuel, or it uses ketones for fuel. And the ability for the brain to use glucose for fuel is an estrogen dependent process. So gluconeogenesis in the brain is dependent on estrogen. As our estrogen levels decline, we're kind of like starving the brain, essentially, in a figurative speak to speak about this. What is really important to understand is that using ketones for brain fuel is not hormonally dependent. So that's why you shifted from maybe a little bit cloudy thinking to clarity. And this is something I always tell clients, is often they'll say, when they do the Keto Green, they'll tell me, I didn't realize how bad I was feeling till I started feeling good again.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love that, because first of all, they invested in themselves. I didn't realize how bad I was feeling till I started feeling good again. And then sometimes we're just so used to powering through, and this has been just a slow progression, and it's just creeped up upon us that we don't realize how bad we were really feeling. So I
Yeah.
think that's important to understand.
Yeah, it kind of stacks, I
It
mean, it's
does.
kind of like, always kind of use the comparison of, you get a refrigerator and you hear the hum in the background, and at first you notice it, and then it just goes into the background and you don't notice it. And I think that's what happens. We start getting used to that, begins to be our new norm of this new way of feeling kind of sluggish, and you forget what it feels like to feel really great. But I know that I started having more energy pretty much right, within I would say a week. Because, initially you do have, they call it what, the keto flu, that your
Mm-hmm.
body is changing over. And so you can have a little bit of a dip there initially. But after that, I, have noticed a huge increase in energy. But I want to go back to the estrogen for a bit, Dr. Anna, because is it true that, so as our estrogen is declining as we age, and is there a specific age range on that, or is that when you start perimenopause, or when does that start to happen?
Well, our progesterone starts to decline. Well, DHEA peaks in our 20s and starts to decline. And so DHEA is a precursor for estrogen and testosterone. And all our hormones are derived from downstream from cholesterol and then progesterone, and progesterone is needed to make cortisol. So in times of stress, the hormone progesterone is further depleted to supply for cortisol, our stress hormone. So, but just in general, so take aside stress, right? That's going to deplete our progesterone, deplete estrogen and testosterone even more, create even more PMS symptoms, perimenopause, brain fog, irritability, cravings, all of those symptoms that, we, just as we're aging naturally, our hormones in our mid 30s to late 30s, as progesterone declines, we get a steeper decline of progesterone, because it's predominantly, we rely on our ovaries for production of progesterone, a little, and estrogen and testosterone, but our adrenal glands make up the difference. And in the menopause and post-menopause, we really rely on hormone production from our adrenal glands predominantly. However, our ovaries are still producing, some testosterone, some estrogen, as well as DHEA
Okay.
and progesterone.
And so that lack of estrogen, and you were talking about that can create the brain fog a bit. And do you feel like that does eventually lead to a higher um, probability of dementia or Alzheimer's in women?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what Dr. Lisa Mosconi has been uh, evaluating and studying in several experiments, and looking at the brain's utilization of glucose for fuel, and how does applying estrogen make a difference. And I really have been asking her to do some studies with progesterone as well, to look at that, because I know clinically, when I prescribe progesterone to either women who have had a hysterectomy and we're on estrogen only, but yet and this is specifically in women, oftentimes when we've had a hysterectomy, we're only given estrogen. But when I gave these women bioidentical progesterone in a cream or oral prescribed formula, they would come back and say, Dr. Anna, I feel like a fog has lifted. I sleep better, I think better, I'm more clear. They'd already been optimized on estrogen, and I added progesterone for their continued symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they told me. So I really want to see those studies looking at progesterone in the brain. And I know for myself now, 53 with a 12-year-old,
Yeah.
and very excited to look forward to that pubertal change.
Oh my gosh, look at your skin. You're just glowing. You're gorgeous.
Thank you. I'm actually on um, my third day of fasting right now. So feeling great. Um, but and that's important because I wanted to get higher ketones to have higher brain clarity. So the first 2 days of my fasting, I did keto green fasting, my keto green protein shake, a couple scoops of mighty maca, water and tea all day, and some bone broth. And today is just a water fasting day, with just a shot of mighty maca in the morning. Just the detoxifying benefits
Mm-hmm.
are really, really strong. And so again, approaching just wanting when I need that extra clarity, and also to just increase my immunity as well as my resilience and hormone balance, I often will do some fasting. Those, getting ketones and actually getting keto green, getting keto alkaline is a very powerful combination that we as women, especially post menopause, really need to experience. So,
Well, and what about, and I love that you brought up the fasting, because I do want to talk to you about that as well with this, and what you just shared, the benefits from that. But I have to just bring up, what we're going through right now, this crisis, this pandemic, that so many people that I've been talking to, friends and clients, have been saying that they know that it's important to eat healthy foods, but they have just been really craving, just comfort foods and eating high carbs and foods that they know are not really great for them. But during this time, being in their homes, so many of us are quarantined, and just, what would you speak to them about as far as what's been going on? Because I know it's challenging. It's always, we're a society that is just going through something so unprecedented, and so much uncertainty and so much fear, that we, often the tendency is to go to food, because we associate food with so much, comfort and family and feel good. So can you talk to that a little bit?
absolutely, absolutely. I know trauma very well. I know stress very well. I had a lot of trauma after with the loss of my son in a traumatic accident. He was only 18 months old, and I was breastfeeding him, and it was trauma upon trauma. My body was shot into menopause, and that's when I received the diagnosis of infertility and early menopause as well. I'm a gynecologist and obstetrician trained in one of the best institutions in our nation at every university, and my doctor's bag was empty, right? That's why I do what I do now, Sherry, because I'm just passionate about giving people hope
Mm-hmm.
and the tools beyond what we do, amazing medicine that we do in this country. Beyond that, the tools that empower us, our resilience over our own body, and not wait till everything in modern medicine fails, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, with high stress and high cortisol, which is excreted at times of trauma, with fear, with worry, with perceived stress, that depletes progesterone. Progesterone is a neuroprotective hormone. And so what happens? We get more, number one, we get more anxious, more irritable, more PMS, more depressed. And we also, and I always tell clients, if you only hate your husband 2 weeks out of the month, it's probably your hormones, not so much your husband. There's definitely that. And but cortisol is also can eat away at our willpower.
Mm-hmm.
So when cortisol is high, we tend to, and for a longer period of time, we will feel those cravings. We will many of us will, as I did. I had a week of early on, because now we're in our fourth week of quarantine here because I had brought my daughter back from Holland. But in that process of, do I bring her back? Do I not bring her back? And worry, all that worry was triggering me, right? I've lost a son. Am I going to lose this daughter? What's going to happen?
Right.
So I had all of that triggering. And with that, it was like, okay, what's my comfort? I haven't thought about like really comfort eating in a long time, and I didn't even think about it. But before you knew it, I was definitely increasing the carbs. For me, they're healthy carbs, but they're still carbs. And the sweet potatoes, the rice, the whatever else it was in our the extra fruit and things that I pretty much really restrict. Just a little bit goes a long way, right? But and then just not having the motivation or the willpower. And I live on the principles that I created, and it was just a very quick, wait a second, right? Check, look at the direction I'm going now. And it was a spiral downward. And so shifting to just focus on the practice and principles that I know that support us makes all the difference in the world, because my hormones are dialed in, right? It takes more than hormones to fix our hormones. We have to do the lifestyle strategy. And like right now, maybe we need a little more progesterone, or maybe we need a little more adrenal support. I'm tripling, quadrupling my mighty maca every day. I'm taking 3 to 4 scoops a day right now, because I know the combination supports my adrenal glands. And so those are things that can make a really big difference. First of all, I tell clients, don't sweat it. Don't blame yourself. Don't shame yourself. Don't have any guilt about it, right? No self-recrimination. Nope, you shed that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you focus on everything that you are grateful for and that you do have control over on today, right now. What do you know is real for you right now? What do you know to be true for you right now?
I love
And you
that.
focus on that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I love that, Dr. Anna, because I think that you hit it right on the head. Most people just feel out of control.
Yep.
Out of control. And the one thing I know, when I was 40 pounds heavier, I really dialed in to understand that I was eating. It was the time that I felt out of control, and I was eating because I felt like that was the one thing I had control over, is what I put in my mouth, even though it's illogical. You're not putting healthy things in, but I think that that's a great thing, is to really invite people to look at what they do have control over and how they can empower themselves by putting something healthy in their mouth. I also wanted to just back up a little bit, because you talk about your Mighty Maca. And for those people who are not familiar with Mighty Maca, or may not have it at their disposal this second, and they want to include things in their diet, first of all, how they might be able to get the Mighty Maca, but also really what's in the Mighty Maca that they could go to the grocery store and grab, that would be beneficial for them at this time.
Well, I definitely, Mighty Maca Plus is a combination of superfoods. It has over 30 superfoods from my healing journey around the world. After my son passed away, I grieved, and then I took my family and we traveled. Like, I just had to keep the earth moving under my feet. This was back in 2006, 2007. So the combination of healing foods that support us. I know I could never stand the taste of maca by itself, and I believe in foods as medicine. So that's why like I can't speak to straight maca, but I know the research behind straight maca, and it's all really positive and good. Mighty Maca Plus, the combination that I created and we've used clinically in my medical practice for over a decade now, as well have seen the improvements in adrenals, hormones, as well as progesterone naturally, because it detoxifies. It has maca in it, has greens. It has some flaxseed in there. It has quercetin, which we know is very supportive of our healthy immune system, turmeric and resveratrol, as well as cat's paw herb and acerola and mangosteen extract and grapeseed extract and green tea extract, a combination of ingredients that work on all these cytokine pathways that we're worried about. So strengthening ourselves, in this way is really beautiful. But in general, going to the grocery store, avoiding the sugar, avoiding the aisles where we're tempted, and for as long as we can, get the fresh greens that we need. With also I talk about the keto green way. It's not just about what we eat. 25% is about what we eat. Just like we know in our health and what we're destined to have, 25% is about our genes. This other 75% is the lifestyle. The same with the keto green approach. It's 25% about what we eat. But, are we stressed when we're eating? What are our thoughts when we're eating? Who are we eating with? Are we laughing? Are we fearful, right? Are we angry and pissed off, right? That affects, you can be eating the most perfect meal, healthiest meal on earth, and be stressed at that meal, be worried at that meal, and that's going to, work against you, let's say.
I love that you brought this up. I mean, who would ever think about that? You look down, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I've prepared this beautiful meal, and you have the thought that everything you're putting in your body is healthy and nutritious. But if you're super stressed out, so what happens then if you're super stressed out or you're angry or you're upset? What happens to that beautiful, healthy meal?
Well, we know from science that it affects our digestion and our absorption and can increase digestive problems as well as malabsorption of that meal, which makes perfect sense, right? Because when we're stressed, and we know the opposite is true. Research has shown that when we express gratitude, when we're thankful, when we say grace before our meal, that we digest our food a lot better and absorb the nutrients a lot more, which is really, and we see that too, because I have everyone check urine pH and ketones. In my programs online, I have my keto pH strips. You can get them for pennies on my website. And it check, for pennies a day, check your urine every time you use the bathroom, especially right now. Cortisol increases the acidity of your urine by increasing hydrogen ion excretion across the renal tubules. It's just a function of what it does. We need to balance that back with healthy minerals, chloride, potassium, magnesium, and so the foods that we eat, plus how we nourish our body and how we think about life and our world as we approach it, makes a huge difference to our digestion and how our body receives what we're giving it or not giving it.
So definitely, before you sit down, to say some sort of a prayer or to just center yourself so that you're in a better space. Maybe even put on some good music, right? That makes you feel happy. That's always a good shifter, I find. And so really making an effort to eat things that are have the minerals that you suggested as well. So can you give more ideas too for not just, I know we're in a crisis, and so this is a time of challenge for a lot of people around what they're eating, but just in general, I know that I have so many clients and friends over 40 who suddenly say, oh my gosh, I can't believe, I'm eating the same way, I'm exercising, and what is going on? I've got this sudden, love handles and growth around my midsection, and I can't seem to shed it. So can you share, using the keto way, what are some of the modifications that would help those women in losing some of those releasing some of that extra weight and feeling better?
Yeah, no, and I totally get that. I mean, my patients would come in to me and say, Dr. Anna, I'm gaining 5, 10, 20 pounds and I'm not doing anything different. What's going on? And I mean, I was a bit skeptical, let's say, at first, until I experienced that. And I gained basically 20 pounds overnight without doing anything different. And that I was once well over 240 pounds, right? Well over 240 pounds, lost those 80 pounds, kept it off for nearly a decade. And then 48 hit and I started gaining weight. And so in my new book, Keto Green 16, I talk about the significant hormones that manage our weight, our hunger, our metabolism, our mitochondrial function, and what a difference that really makes in our body. And so when we're experiencing this is why I say going keto green is essential for this time, especially perimenopause and postmenopause. And it is, number one, we have to shift up our fuel source, because glucose is to gasoline as ketones are to jet fuel. And what would we rather have, right?
Yeah.
They definitely need this metabolic flexibility. We can do Getting into ketosis, however, and in my programs, just start with intermittent fasting. And I walk you into a 16-hour intermittent fast. My experienced fasters right now are doing 3 days of water fasting with me right now, after doing a couple days of keto green fasting, or mixing it up, right? It's just about honoring your body and honoring where you are right now, which is so critical, because sometimes we do need that nourishment, and finding other ways to feel nourished and satisfied and joy, and increase oxytocin, the most powerful hormone. I talk about it in all my books. As we increase oxytocin, we feel more centered, at peace, and oxytocin is the natural appetite suppressant. But when we're getting this mid-girth weight gain, that intermittent fasting and no more snacking is key. Plus, in Keto Green 16, I combine 16 key food types to work to help improve our hormones, our metabolism, our digestion, and certainly the gut microbiome, which is so important for hormone balancing. So I can't say that enough. So really focused on a combination of 16 foods. And in the studies, the clinical studies we've run, we've had just fabulous results.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important thing to touch on too, is the gut being the, can you speak a little bit more into that? Because isn't, what I've heard is that really, as you said, it's the first place of digestion. Isn't it also the place where we can build immunity as well? Or can you clarify some of that? Because I've heard that it really is the place where everything starts, disease, everything. So I'd love to hear a little bit more.
Yes, yes. And absolutely. Like as a physician, as a gynecologist and obstetrician, I always say you've got to heal the gut first for hormone balance. And, we'll talk about vaginal health in another uh,
Yeah, we'll bring
webinar.
about.
Definitely, because I always say, that is a representation of our gut health as well. And as we get older, that there are significant consequences for this area of our body that can just be devastating. So we will get into that. But as a functional medicine doctor also, when a patient comes into my office and they're complaining of hormone imbalance, PMS, weight gain, anxiety, I put them on what's basically my Keto Green Detox. Put them on this program and check their inventory, their questionnaires, draw lab work, and follow up to see them in 4 to 6 weeks for their lab results. Used to take that long to get some lab results back, but I want them to do, the program and come back in with their results. And always, Sherry, patients would come back in and tell me, I feel 90% better. I feel 90% better. And that's before I wrote anything on a prescription pad, with the exception maybe of some bioidentical progesterone or anything else. And so that's how powerful the body's ability is to heal itself. And the diversity, we know that our gut, the health of our microbiome is more important than our genetics, right? Mm-hmm. We know that identifying the genome has spelled that out for us. So whatever our genes may have a propensity for, we can tilt the scales in our favor by affecting our lifestyle and our environment and supporting ourselves. And so that science is emerging now in full bloom. And we know also for hormone health that there's a section of our microbiome called the estrobolome, which helps our body or hurts our body from detoxifying estrogen. So we need to detoxify estrogen in a healthy way, or we become more estrogen dominant, more likely to experience uterine cancer, breast cancers, and because it's not the healthy estrogen, it's the unhealthy estrogen that is recirculating.
So the detoxifying happens in the gut, is that?
Yes. Okay. But liver, kidneys, guts, just all our organs, are part of the detox. Even our lungs, we exhale, and that's detoxifying as we exhale, right? So there are, many organs, but our metabolism, part of the metabolism of our hormones, the liver and the gut are key organs for that hormonal metabolism.
And so by eating clean, by eating this ketone way, that
Keto Green way. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that helps to cleanse the gut in a way that helps then to support the liver and kidneys, all the other organs that are involved in helping to detoxify this estrogen. Is that,
It
my,
really does.
okay.
Yeah, it really does. It helps with, the symptoms too, the diversity of the gut microbiome. We know from looking at a tribe, a recently discovered and evaluated tribe in South America, looked at their microbiome, and they had an incredibly diverse microbiome, and they had none of the diseases of aging that we see in our country.
Wow.
The diabetes, the heart disease, the Alzheimer's was non-existent among their elders. And so we know that our antibiotics and our GMOs, and if we eat a farm raised fish that was, cooked for us, there's antibiotics in there. And so that kills off, those daily doses of antibiotics kill off our own first line of defense, the soldiers that are on the front line. That is our gut microbiome. So that's why it's so important to keep a healthy gut, not just as eating keto green help, but the intermittent fasting that we do,
Mm-hmm.
and increasing insulin sensitivity and feeding the good bacteria versus increasing, yeast or overgrowth of unhealthy bacteria. That those can be really big factors. And so, like, for example, too much sugar, even too much healthy fruit, it's still sugar.
Yeah, that was the interesting thing I found with the keto is the limitation of the fruits. Because you think, I had been eating a banana and almond butter every morning, like
Oh, and so good.
years. But then I was reading that a banana has 27 grams of carbs. And so,
But yeah, so you can still, in keto green, you can still eat, a portion of that banana, because we want to keep you below 40 grams of carb, but I would put that in the evening so it's not driving your insulin up. So
uh,
same with in my meals, how I orchestrated the menus, again, trying to keep it simple and easy to prepare, that we can get at any grocery store. But even if you did that, and also there's days we feast, right?
mhm.
So feasting days, you want to keep that metabolic flexibility. You don't want to be in ketosis all the time, right? And then remind me to say something later, but for that, back to that banana, which I love, banana and almond butter. I mean, how wonderful. But a little bit goes a long way, and have that as slices as part of your dessert for after dinner.
Mm.
So that can, that will raise your glucose a little bit and your insulin at that time, but that will also increase tryptophan and help you get, with that almond butter or nut butter, that will help you get a really good, solid, restoring night's sleep. So for some people, just adding that in really helps with a better night's sleep.
That's awesome. I never thought
Mm-hmm.
about that. That is such a great suggestion, Dr. Anna, because I would have it in the morning, but then I would experience a little bit of a dip, and I wasn't putting it together with the banana. So that's awesome, and that's also serves, I think, for a lot of women when they start to experience the hormone imbalance. Their sleep patterns get disrupted, right? So I know I have a lot of people, friends and clients who say that they wake up 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So if that's the case, having a little bit of banana with the almond butter before they go to sleep would help them with that. Or if they do wake up, would you recommend, and they're starving, would you recommend, kind of like a 2 a.m. snack of a little bit of a banana?
Well, this is that issue. I think as they're exercising their fasting muscle, I would say often when you're waking up hungry, you're actually thirsty. You're
Uh,
actually thirsty. And I would take note and make sure, I don't like anyone to drink very much after dinner, especially women as we get older, right? We need to digest that evening meal, and we don't want to dilute our digestive enzymes. We want our system to do what it needs to do.
hmm,
And also, we don't want to get up 2, 3, 4 times during the night to use the bathroom.
right.
So I talk about this in the Hormone Fix and Keto Green 16, but just restricting fluids at that time can help us get a good night's sleep. But as you're just like anything new, just like a new workout, you've got to warm up to it, right? You've got to work up to it. It's like exercising a muscle. So with that, you want to, when you wake up, if you're waking up in the middle of the night, hydrate really well, do some deep breathing, let that pass, let that feeling of hunger pass, and just work on that meditation and get right back, ideally get right back to sleep. At my bedside, I will share with you, in the evening, part of my evening ritual is progesterone. I am the worst sleeper. I was born to be an obstetrician. Like, I never slept a night through in my life. Solo practice, delivering 23 babies a month. I was the Marcus Welby MD, right? And I'm a terrible sleeper. All my entire life, 5-6 hours of sleep. My dad was the same way. Well, he did 5 to 6 hours of sleep, but he always had a 15-minute nap in the middle of the day.
Love
So,
it.
but me, you have kids. How do you nap? A single mom, like what's napping, for heaven's sakes? And so, but I got off track. Let me tell you, at the bedside.
Yeah.
At the bedside. So in the evening, I do my progesterone in the evening. I take 1 or 2 nights off a week, do my progesterone in the evening, and I will take some magnesium and a melatonin. I use my Pure Snooze formula, which is a sublingual melatonin that's really well absorbed. And I typically will do 1/2 to 1. And then if I wake up in the middle of the night, I will take another of the melatonin, or I also use another magnesium, another supplement called, well, you probably know of Calm, magnesium
I love
Calm formula. You can take another dose of Calm in the evening, and some lavender essential oils at my bedside. I just smell that, do some heart breathing, and relax, and just think positive thoughts and get back to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So, and as you retrain your body, that waking up in the middle of the night will decrease, will stop.
So I love that. So you talked about having the magnesium as you go to bed. You've got the magnesium. What was it that you put sublingually? Is that the melatonin?
Melatonin. It's called Pure Snooze formula that I created.
Yeah, Pure
That I
Snooze.
have. Mm-hmm.
That's great. And if you wake up, those are great tips. I love.
And progesterone at bedtime, because typically it helps with getting a good night's sleep. However, if you're like high cortisol, if you're using progesterone and you're stimulated, you don't have cortisol well managed. And that's where, again, you can take some extra Mighty Maca at night, the adaptogenic formula, to help calm down the adrenals. It's adaptogenic. So if it's too high or too low, Mighty Maca, this formula seems to work really well. And so that's another option.
And progesterone in what format? In what form?
Yeah, again, I created things I needed for myself. So I have my Pura Balance PPR cream, which has progesterone and pregnenolone in a cream with some anti-aging tripeptide. So I use a pump of this, and I use it on my skin. And helps with firming, not to mention that, again, natural hormone balance. But of course we want, I don't know, little vain to get those cosmetic benefits too. Yeah. But so you can use it on the chest, face, neck, anywhere you have thin skin, you can see veins through the skin, inner arms, lower abdomen, also the pelvic floor. You can use it on the perineum, and rotate sites when you're using, that's the one I use now. So I can also prescribe bioidentical progesterone, 100 or 200 milligrams at bedtime. It's comparable to 10 to 20 milligrams transdermal if you have, yeah.
Okay. So that's a great bedtime recipe then, the progesterone and then the magnesium. You could take
and
it.
The melatonin.
And then the melatonin, pure cell, right?
Yes.
Underneath. And then if you wake up a few hours later, then you can drink some water, you can smell the lavender, you can take a little bit more of the calm, and you can do the heart breathing and
yes.
relaxing yourself. That's great. Yeah. I think in general, that's a great bedtime ritual, especially at these times, anytime, but especially during these times. It's really a great ritual for everyone. And Dr. Anna, tell us, what would you eat typically, like for a ketone, the ketone way of eating? Can you give us a typical day for you, just to give us an idea of what, because I know you talked about modifications in that diet, and we've talked about eating more greens, and but can you explain a little bit more for people who may not be familiar with the ketone diet, what the modifications would be and what that would look like? And so
yes,
you're doing it, so I'd love to hear what you eat.
Yeah, I'm happy to share. And also, we created a keto calculator with a day in the life of being keto green. Do you have that link?
I don't. Can you give it So
I,
I'll put
I
it,
will
yeah.
I will give it to you, and it's easy. It's dranna.com/keto calc. So like Dranna, DRANNA.com/keto calc. And then you can actually, you put in your weight, your height, your age, your activity level. So, and then it kind of customizes out a day in the life being keto green plan for you, which is really, really nice. And for me, it looks like this. Again, I'm 53 years old. I'm mostly sitting now because I'm working, office type setting. I'm right now, I'm home because my daughter has my home office. And one of my daughters, now that there's 5 women in the house and 2 female dogs. Anyway, it's all good. So if like for me, I would get up in the morning this morning, before I get out of bed, I, express gratitude and I think about yesterday. Where did I feel love yesterday? Where did I see love yesterday?
Mm,
And where could I have laughed at myself more? Usually is my 3 questions. And then I drink a tall glass of water. I drink a shot of Mighty Maca mixed with water, maybe some apple cider vinegar. And then I will go about, do some exercise, start my day, and then I'll break fast approximately 15 to 16 hours after my dinner meal.
mhm.
And so that would be, my daughters were cooking this morning. So they made on a bed of greens, arugula and mixed greens and some fresh herbs. They had 2 pan fried eggs and some sprouts on top, slices of avocado drizzled with olive oil and squirting lemon juice over it. So that is a keto green breakfast. Absolutely. And that has your fat, your fiber, and your protein. And that's really what we want combined together, fat, fiber, and protein. And so your fiber is your greens.
Mhm.
And so then for dinner, we had the other night. So we also, in Keto Green 16, I really want to impress that in this book, I also created a 16-day vegan and vegetarian plan that each of us should do once or twice a year at least, even if we're I'm a complete omnivore and my blood type's O positive, and I was a vegetarian for over 10 years and it just didn't work right for me. So, but I definitely periodically will be completely vegetarian for a certain amount of time, as will most of my children. And so, but we had this great, I'm just saying that to clarify that we had this amazing steak the other day that we grilled on the outside grill,
Uh-huh.
and we just had some sauteed vegetables with it. Just cabbage. Cabbage is such a powerful food. It's so good. It's good for the breast health. It's great antioxidants,
Mm.
great fiber, great for digestion. A little bit goes a long way. If you have trouble eating raw cabbage, anyway, I like it sauteed in butter and with some onions, and it's so buttery and delicious. It's just a really nice. So we had some cabbage and zucchini on the side. So that's a keto green dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's your evening meal.
That's our evening meal. So I typically do 2 meals a day. And then maybe sometimes I'll have a shake for when I break fast, that might be a shake, keto green shake. And I will use my keto green powder, 1 or 2 scoops, depending. Maybe a slice of avocado because it makes every shake so creamy.
Love
And
it.
whatever greens I have in the fridge. So handful of spinach, kale, sprouts. I may add some ginger to help with my digestion if I want something that's on the spicy side, or I may add cinnamon and nutmeg or cardamom if I want that kind of more soothing type of shake for me. So it really kind of depends. And then I might add some additional MCT oil to get some healthier fats in, and or nuts or nut butter.
Mm,
So
great.
it's like a huge combination. Sometimes it's just, I'm just, 1 or 2 scoops in my shaker cup, shake it up and drink it with a couple scoops of Mighty Maca. And that might be my break fast. Just depends on how busy I am for the day. That might be yeah. Or if in the middle of the day, if I feel, I always say no snacking, but sometimes you're like, oh, gosh, I'm really struggling, and I'll do that as a snack. I'll do a shake, a scoop with a scoop of Mighty Maca just as a in between, or I'll do a handful of nuts.
Okay. Yeah. I like nuts, and like some cubes of cheese too are really satisfying. So when you talk about break fast, you're talking about um, the time after you eat dinner, and then you go all the way through the night, and then before you have your first thing to eat in the morning. Is that correct?
So when I talk, intermittent fasting is that time from night to the time the first meal.
First meal.
First meal. And then whatever that first meal is, that's my break fast.
Okay, good. Clarify.
So versus breakfast. Because sometimes that's actually my lunch, you know?
Yeah, it just depending on how long you want to make that fast for, that intermittent
Mhm.
fast. Yeah. That sounds delicious, first of all, and thank you for sharing that because it's really helpful. And I love how you set yourself up in the morning with the gratitude and how can I love more and where was I loving and all of that, because then that, as you mentioned earlier, is very helpful when you're eating, that's going to really lay the foundation as you stay connected to that as your goal of being loving, that you're going to absorb the food in a better way and digest it in a much better way. So I just want to thank you so much, Dr. Ann. I can't believe we're already out of time, but I do want to have another, I want you to come back. Let's talk about your really your sexual health and why that's important, whether you're having a partner in your life or not. So I'm super thrilled. We'll have to figure out a time to have you come back, but I am thrilled to have you share this Keto Green 16, your new book, and the way of life of eating that, and how we can, as women over 40, really take more control of our life, take more control of our bodies, which feels so good to be empowered. I am so grateful to you and all the wisdom that you're putting out for all of us. I am beyond grateful. And I just love you. You're such a heart-centered, warm doctor. The girlfriend doctor, she's the one to go to.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel the same about you, Sherry. It's been great having this girlfriend time. Thank you.
So fun. Thanks so much. Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening.